Next, we have our panel, and this is on the future of XR. So how I'm going to do this is, again, I will read out your name, and as I read out your name, come on down. It's like a game show, and everybody will then know who you are. So from game-changing innovations to killer use cases, what can we expect to see in XR in 2020, as well as 5 to 10 years down the road? Today, we're joined by XR leaders to discuss and debate the potential impact of XR on the future of business, entertainment, and our lives. So first, I would like to welcome the moderator. This is Nina Salomons, who was up here earlier. She is an award-winning filmmaker, XR creative producer, and consultant. And welcome her back to the stage. Thank you. And then joining her, we have Adam Price, who is the sales manager at DBpixelhouse, where he works with leading brands and agencies to maximize visitor engagement and exhibitor ROI at major events around the world. Next, we have Alexis Vartan, the CTO of TechVi, a leader in VR software for engineering. Receiving his PhD in computer science, he created a unique technology to display in VR data from any 3D software without any conversion, and founded TechVi in 2004 to promote his technology. Is he not here? Okay, all right, so no Alexis. Okay, Pieter van Leugenhagen. He is the co-founder and business lead at Virtual, as well as the co-founder of Yonder, an award-winning creative content studio that produces high-end 360 videos and virtual augmented reality experiences. Virtual is an online learning platform and a go-to resource for cinematic VR, helping students and professionals broaden their immersive storytelling capability. And finally, we have Rosh Singh. He is the managing director of Unit 9, a global innovation studio and leading multidisciplinary production company working across interactive areas, including films, games, VR, and digital technology. Previously, he's run a record label, sold a business to WPP, and founded a startup incubator. So welcome, guys. Please help me welcome the panel. One for you, and one for you guys.
Test.
Test? Okay.
Okay.
So I did this really old school, and I've just gone with a paper and a pen. So you guys are just going to have to use your imaginations. So the first thing that I actually want to do, even though Emilia did an introduction, I feel it's better to hear it from the individuals themselves. And I guess the question that I'm going to be asking is, who are you? How did you get into the industry? What are you doing now? What does the company do? And what do you do there?
Okay, so my name's Adam Price, and I work with a team of salespeople for a company called DBpixelhouse, and we create around about 500 interactives per year for large tech companies and agencies, and these get used in exhibitions and events and innovation centres, visitor centres. A lot of those are using XR that we're obviously discussing today. I got into it, I was a car salesman for 10 years, an insurance salesman for 5 years, and I was an estate agent for 3 years, so I'm obviously a horrible person for that. But what that did help me understand is human behaviour and how people behave. So I kind of apply a lot of that thought and logic into what we can actually tangibly sell. Having this tech's great, but what we can sell is kind of my focus in the business.
Thank you. My name is Pieter, and I'm started in VR in 2014, or in immersive, when we first launched our studio Yonder. I had a background in marketing business because my first company. I started in 2010, focusing on branding, web, and video. Or web experiences. 2014 we started with VR, but there was actually nothing, especially not in Belgium. So we went to Paris to educate ourselves at Video Stitch. Went to the US to train ourselves, and then we did a lot of branded content experiences. That's what we are still doing now, mainly branded, and recently more enterprise content production. And then in 2019, last year actually, at South by, we launched a new venture, a spin-off of the Yonder group, which is virtual, or VRTL. Some people pronounce it VRTL, but we prefer virtual, which is an online learning platform to kickstart and expand careers in new realities, so AR and VR. So what we mainly do is publish online courses for people who want to explore, learn to understand the technology, learn how to produce the technology. And we are now expanding the course library, so we have 2 courses online now, but there will be a huge update soon.
Hi there, I'm Rosh. I am Managing Director of Unit 9. Unit 9 is an innovation-focused production company, so we use emerging technology and creativity to create experiences and tell stories on behalf of brands. We've been involved in the immersive side of things for quite some time. We saw the initial kind of rise of VR and the very subsequent demise of VR in the branded content world. And then, you know, we're now doing a lot of work with XR. A couple of notable examples. A couple of weeks ago, we created the world's first 5G-enabled augmented reality dress on the red carpet of the BAFTAs, using motion tracking, real-time kind of AR layering on top of that. Earlier in 2019, we created a campaign called Moonshot, which is an augmented reality documentary for the JFK, for the moon landing, alongside the JFK Memorial Library, interspersing all of the archival footage from that experience, along with, you know, the ability to actually launch your rocket from your garden, from your table, and to see it in real time, make the journey and interspliced with all of the archival footage from that archive. Yeah, and a whole lot of other things in between. You know, immersive technologies aren't just XR. We do a lot of experiential, a strong kind of AI part to our business. How did I personally get into XR? I'm not really sure. Having this conversation earlier, my earliest memory of XR, I can't remember a campaign. I can't remember the first thing I saw. And unless I go back really far, and that was watching Terminator 2, and his eye was the first kind of real augmented reality display I've seen, and it's fascinated me ever since, and I can't wait until we get there.
Hello, I'm Alexis Vartan, CTO and one of the founders of TechVi. So, in fact, TechVi was founded in 2004, so a long time before everybody heard about VR, but VR was already there at that time. And my background was computer architecture, and I was looking to, what industry would really require high performance 3D rendering in real time, and actually one of the target industry at that time was VR. At that time, VR were mostly projection system, caves, a little bit of HMD system would cost hundreds of thousands to go to VR. The company we started in 2004, TechVi, is a software editor that has a unique software that enables people to visualize the 3D content without any data conversion. So it helped bring a lot of industries into VR because they could visualize, let's say, the ships they are building, the cars they are designing in their own CAD software. They could visualize it immediately in VR, make some change, have some conversation over the model, and the ease of use really help convert a lot of industries to VR. 15 years from now, and of course we are now doing that more and more with collaboration between multiple sites. The key again is being VR as a communication tool for industries working on some content to be able to discuss around the content and make better decisions and faster decisions.
Cool. I think we're just going to keep going around this way. So if you just pass the microphone back. We are talking about what the future of XR is, but I think it all is going to be quite a personal panel. I'm going to make it. So I think what's really important for us to know, or for me to know, is what inspired you to get into the space in the first place, and where do you want to personally drive your industry towards?
I think what made us join this space really was that we would receive a brief from a client, and they would need to achieve a certain objective, and we would then look at the technologies that were available and make the decision that XR is the right decision based on what outcome they're looking for. So a big part of that process is really trying to understand the behaviour of the delegates that attend the exhibitions, for example, that a lot of our tech goes into. And we need to try and change that person's behavior. And in an exhibition environment, I'm sure you've all been kind of across the way, there's a lot of bright lights, it's very busy, it's hard to grab someone's attention. And when you have got their attention, you've got them for a very short space of time. So what we need to do is try and engage with that person as quickly as we can. And you might have a short space of time in which to do that. And what XR is really good at is engaging certain elements of the cognitive thinking and using certain parts of the haptic thinking. So when we engage with something and we physically use our hands and we physically use our body movement, we're very familiar with that process when we learn naturally by doing a physical exercise. And it's engaging digital content in a way that you're using different parts of the brain and you're changing people's behavior. So the reason that we wanted to do that is because you've got a very short space of time, and it's proven that if you can have that haptic cognitive thought happening, people will remember approximately 80% of what they learn, as opposed to seeing a video and you'll only remember 20% of that. And return on investment is a big part of what we try and measure. And for me, return on investment is what they got out of the event, but also when they're coming back to me for the same thing, that proves that they got the return on that investment they initially put in. So we found that XR is a really good way of people giving us repeat business, which is a good measure for me that it's successful for them as well.
So yeah, the reason why we started with it was because it was back then a long time ago that I was so blown away by something. It was 2013 or 14, I guess, 14 probably, when I had my first when I had the DK1 on my head, and that was we were already in video production, we were in branding, we were in storytelling. So for us it was the obvious way to evolve in that way, because at a certain point, if you're telling stories based using video or branding or whatever brand experience, it's a logic step that VR comes or AR will be the next step, because it's a new medium to tell stories or to explain things to your for your clients, to their customers. So that's the reason why we started with that. But we started with a new company focused on immersive, and meanwhile the company is more focused on VR, AR, hologram, digital experiences in general. What I would like to, the reason why, or what my bigger goal for this is, in terms of the agency, is keep on doing awesome work by combining creativity and technology, what we were talking about earlier. That's what we still want to do. In a moment that we think that we can't do great work anymore, then I think your story is over. We did the projects we did in the past, in the first 2 years, 2015, 16, and maybe a little bit of 17, were more brand experience oriented. So they were more like you can call it the fun stuff, because it's closer to your own life, because you're working for consumer brands who might have impact on your life as well. But now we see that we are evolving much more to corporate trainings, safety trainings, enterprise solutions, sometimes in businesses that are far away from my daily life. But that's also very interesting, and to see that you can generate ROI or added value for those companies. That's actually what we have to do to go away from that hype, which VR has been for a couple of years and actually still is. And then in terms of the online education, what we are doing, it's just our goal to become like the go-to resource for all things VR and AR trainings, or people just share knowledge on those two technologies.
I think I can still remember the question. I think, if I talk with our kind of advertising hat on rather than the enterprise side of our business, I think the advertising world has always been incredibly curious about technology, and I think some of it comes from a cynical place and some of it comes from a real place. On the cynical side, everyone in advertising wants to be famous, they want to look good, they want to do something first, so technology is the easiest way for them to do that. And obviously we have at Unit 9 have been very lucky to be involved in some of those projects, as we get to test really cutting edge technologies and really creative use cases for them. But I think on the other side of it, technology actually has an incredible place in what we do in advertising. As you were saying, I think in advertising, what we're trying to do is alter the kind of the choice architecture of people. Ultimately, when they stand in front of a shelf full of products, we want them to reach for one product over the other. And creating immersive experiences, whatever that might be, is a great way of doing that, and increasing memory encoding by using a piece of technology, whether it be AR or VR, is an amazing way to do that. And so obviously we will always be pulling on the new technologies that we can use to start to influence people in new ways and try to capture some more of that attention span that is dwindling and it's so fragmented into other spaces. I think in terms of what our bigger picture is, I think there's a more micro, bigger picture that I'm really interested in, which is, trying to make the brands and make, clients and agencies and everyone trying to get them to understand how to use the technology better, how to understand the nuances of each platform and each different type of technology and use them to the best of their ability to create an output that is, additive in value to people rather than just using a technology. I think it's we're at a very interesting stage. I think, as you said, we're still at this point of, the industry is hyping the technology, and I think hype exists when the expectation far outweighs the reality, and that is education. The thing that bridges that gap is always education, and I feel in our worlds, the best thing we can do is to educate clients on how best to use the technology and guide them in ways. I mean, do we make loads of mistakes? Absolutely. We make them on jobs, we learn. We are lucky because we get to learn across multiple different projects. This might be the only XR project one of our clients will ever do if we do it badly. So it's our job to educate them and try and get that differential from expectation to reality as equal as possible. I think I answered your question.
Yes, on our side, we see XR as almost a new communication platform beyond the phone, the video conference, screen sharing, chatting. For us, VR is the next medium for that helps enterprise, especially industries, to discuss together around a virtual mock-up to make better decisions, travel less, and have a better understanding of what they do. We see this as really a big player in the way big industrial companies and even medium-sized industrial companies will work in the future. All these companies are, merging between multinational group, having plants in Asia, research teams spread around the world. And these people need to work together to make product faster, with a better quality, less defect. And VR really, and XR especially, because you can mix also real things, helps have people together in different places and discuss around the product that they would see and they would see other. So we see a lot of use case on this, and that's already what we have been doing for many years. And with the devices getting cheaper, easier to use, have a better connectivity, that will help get this technology all around the places.
Just out of curiosity, because I don't really know what the majority of you guys do. Who here has tried AR? Hands up. Who here has tried VR? So you guys are all, I suppose, in the industry, roughly speaking, except for the people watching online, yeah? Okay, right. So you guys are all in this. We're all in this secret group of industry professionals then. So my biggest question is then, because I used to work as an XR journalist and I used to go around the world and interview companies, and a lot of them have disappeared and they've gone bust. So I guess my controversial question is, why do you still exist? Why are you still here? Why have you not died out?
Well, we've been around for 20 years now, and the first augmented reality experience that we did was over a decade ago, and we augmented internal fan blades onto a GE jet engine in a live exhibition. So we've been doing AR for a long time, and the reason for us, and obviously I can only base this on my opinion, but the reason that it's worked for us is it's always been an outcome of an objective. So the clients wanted something very specific from us, and we've prescribed that particular solution as a result of achieving that final objective. And ultimately, it comes down to that's what people want. You've got to be delivering what people want. Coming up with cool tech, coming up with great ideas is one good thing. The reason that our clients, come to us is that they know they can trust us to deliver something that's achievable. Brand new tech's risky, so I like using brand new tech, but I'd rather someone else do it first. And then we kind of adopt it after it's been tried a handful of times, because we know that we've got this one opportunity to deliver something for 3 days.
You're not taking any risks.
Yeah, that's kind of part of it. We do take risks every single day, and we calculate our kind of costs associated with various risks, and we apply more people to a project if it's a very risky one. But we try and minimize our risks, essentially, which has always been a kind of an ethos, is we do deliver. And if there's anybody who's integral to the whole process that says, hang on a minute, we stop and we listen to them, which has been the failure of many programs previously. And quite often I see people taking big risks, and I watch them fail, unfortunately.
Just out of curiosity for income and revenue, when it comes to the amount of clients that come in, do you feel like a lot of them are corporate, or a lot of them are sort of creative brands and they're looking for new exciting ideas?
Yeah, a combination, essentially. So I work with some of the greatest creative minds in the events industry, and they come to us for solutions because they can't figure it out. But what they do give us is they give us the creative influence to be able to put the right solution in place. So we've got a good team that can sit and come up with some ideas and concepts, but we feed off their original concepts and ideas. And then from that, we'll kind of apply our technical solutions to it, which will ultimately deliver the whole package, low risk.
So out of that, just out of curiosity, a low risk, does that mean that you've seen maybe 2 or 3 companies try out a new technological solution, you try and mimic that? Or when do you say, okay, they've tried it enough, it's safe for us to use?
R&D is a big part of it. R&D, we kind of need to spend and invest a lot of time and money in getting the solution right initially. And we'll have a demo room, and we've got a lab in London where we can set these things up and test them over a prolonged period and tweak and make changes to them. So research and development is a big part of how we do this, but also knowing our limits and where we're comfortable, and just really having a good overview of everybody's capabilities in the team. And we've got different skill sets. We've got a guy called Alex, who I can just imagine what his bedroom looks like. It'll be filled with gadgets and cables, and he's that guy who will make a sensor do something really unusual and kind of come up with he could probably make a Dyson Hoover fly. He's that kind of guy. So he's got lots of different skill sets there. But then we've got another guy called Sam, who just knows everything about Unity, and if we ask him, can Unity do this, he'll be able to tell us very quickly whether it can, and we can combine those two people together to come up with a solution that we know is concrete and deliverable.
Fantastic.
So the reason why we are still alive is that I think because we are, me together with my 2 co-founders, we are very hard workers. First of all, we do what we love, because otherwise you can't spend that much hours or that many hours investing in your job. We had a rough time as well. Like I said, we started in 2014, and then the phone didn't stop ringing for 2 years. So we did a lot of work for many big brands, mainly focused on the Belgian market, also Holland, and some internationally, if the corporate was based or the brand was headquartered in Belgium. And then early 2017, the phone stopped ringing, so we had to let go of 4 people, I guess. We didn't pay ourselves a management fee for 12 months, and that kept us alive back in the days. And then all of a sudden, we started focusing on enterprise solutions. We did corporate trainings, safety trainings, but also we raised some money, acquired another agency to expand our services, and then we started doing not only VR and AR, but also the digital experiences, also the video productions again, to just make more revenue that we could invest in our business as well.
So how did you test the market and figure out that there was a need for these new services that you were sort of investing in, steering your company towards?
Because we were already doing that in the past, like the brand experiences, the video productions. That's how Yonder started. And so we knew that of course there is a market for it, because that's something that's existing for a long time. And we to get over the hype of VR with all the brand experiences that we did. So yeah, a brand did a VR experience at their booth in 2016 or 15. They were not going to do again another VR experience at their booth the year after, because they needed to have something else, a new hype. So that's when we started to think about how can VR add value to a business or generate ROI. And then you start thinking about use cases and test some things, and then you see that there are in learning and development and in safety and those corporate trainings, that there is a market, or that there is a proven ROI, that it definitely works to implement the VR.
So would
AR.
you say that sort of having more corporate clients during that period of time saved that bit of the company?
In terms of VR, we only have corporate clients, I guess. So only the big corporates based in Belgium or internationally. Now we see some more traction with smaller or SMEs who have SMEs with 200, 300 employees who want to explore safety training because they think it's cool to profile themselves. Also for employer branding reasons and PR reasons, because you get some press these days if you explore those new realities. So we are getting some traction over there as well. But for VR or AR, it's mainly the bigger corporations. Yeah.
So I don't know much about sort of the Belgian market when it comes to funding, but you're based in the UK. You're based in the UK. Are you based in the UK? You're in France. Okay, when it comes to Belgium and it comes to the sort of different sectors and the funding, how do you see it compared to other areas in Europe and America or Asia, for example?
I think that's a good question, because we are raising at this point for the academy, and I think with all the numbers that were predicted by all the big analytics companies like Gartner, like Goldman and Sachs, they predicted the billions of money of headsets or millions of headsets right now already. So there was like a big disillusionment in terms of investors as well. So we overhyped the hype. And now it's not that easy anymore to find money in this space, because people, even government funds, are looking at us like, is VR or AR really going to happen? And compared to 3 years ago, it was, everybody wanted to jump on that opportunity. So everybody thought this was going to be the next thing, and now we have to prove ourselves again. And we know that it will happen someday. And we believe in those two or in this medium, but I believe Belgium is already a very conservative market, especially in terms of it's difficult to. There are no big seed funds in Belgium. It's more like Series A, Series B. So it's already not easy today to raise money as in seed to do a seed round, and then. Moreover, then the fact that we overhyped ourselves with the whole VR community is not doing well.
Would you say that all of these analysts and other corporations saying that VR and AR are going to be successful has kind of hindered your ability to be successful as a company?
They predict that it was going to be successful too soon, and the technology wasn't ready for it, and it's still not ready for it. It still needs a couple of more years to overcome all those hurdles that we have to get people inside a headset, because it's not convenient enough. It looks weird. Those are things that we still have to overcome. And they predicted that by now we would all be billionaires, the people who started early in VR. But like you said, we saw a lot of agencies come, or studios come in 2014, 15, but a lot of them disappeared already because they were not going to get rich before 2020, or not making tons of money in VR.
So hopefully we're not all in this just for the money, hopefully. Rosh, can you tell us, Unit 9 is quite a large company, because you guys have different branches, so maybe you can explain all of the different branches, their expertise, and specifically what Unit 9 does in your area.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that is one of the core reasons that we have survived. I mean, before VR came, we were already specialists in film, in digital innovation, in product design, in brand experience, and in gaming. This was another string to our bow, and there's a lot of cross-pollination of all those different things that come together within immersive. So it was the perfect thing for us to do. I think, tons and tons of really talented, amazing studios have come and gone in the times, in the kind of dark winter of XR, whatever you want to call it. And it's not because they're not good enough, it's because they were too early. It's quite expensive to run a studio that's loaded with developers and 3D artists, and it's quite a resource-intensive operation. And if you're 2 or 3 years ahead of the market, you're going to run out of capital pretty quickly. From our perspective, we had the ability to pivot and roll in the direction the market went. I think we found enterprise fairly quickly after we basically rolled down our full studio, I think that makes perfect sense. Consumers are very difficult to please, right? Especially from a brand's perspective, you want a premium experience, and when everything's going to 4K, 8K, and then you're asking for a branded experience in this environment that feels, like it was 10 years ago on a kind of an old screen, that doesn't work for a brand. But the enterprise world is a lot more forgiving. And then, we saw, we spread the risk over our different locations. I mean, we're in London, we're in Poland, we're in Berlin, we're in LA, we're in New York. As the Asian market hotted up, the Middle East might have gone quiet and London might have gone quiet. But as London wraps up, we see the balance across what we do. I mean, if there is no secret sauce outside of that. I mean, we call ourselves innovation generalists, which I know is stupid, but but that's how we run our business. We want to be as masterful in as many things as possible because we know full well that the market can turn overnight. And if we over leverage in one area and we over specialize, we're 200 odd people spread across the world. If we focus too deeply on one thing and the market changes, advertising is based on whim, a lot of the times we are done. So a lot of what we do is about spreading our risk. If we see an opportunity in one area, we've kind of got to just rein ourselves back from over-investing in that area. We've got to spread what we do across everything just to ensure that we don't go the same way as some of the other studios. There's some really talented, amazing studios that have not survived, and we don't want to be one of them.
So when it comes to, it looks like one of the key areas to survival is being able to communicate with your team and understand your strengths and weaknesses. With Unit 9, if you are spread across the world and there's all of these different people doing different things, how do you have that conversation? Do you guys meet up once every year? Do you have a sort of sit-down discussion and say, it looks like this is where the market is going, we should dedicate more of our projects to here and say no to those types of projects?
I don't think we've ever said no. I don't think that's in our DNA.
So you take a risk compared to.
We like to do projects that challenge us. I think to your original question, I mean, the way that we're structured, we are one global business. So we're not, our London office is not a different business to our Berlin office, to our Poland office. We are one global business. We have one global production arm, one global creative arm, one global technical arm. We work together as a unit. And that allows us to keep that communication up. I mean, there's no point in us having silos. We've built these production capabilities and these skill sets across the world over a long period of time. I think where we have an advantage is that we have a macro view of what's going on. Probably, one of very few that have such a view. So we work with all of the advertising agencies in every single market we're in. We work very closely with direct clients, and we can see trends coming before they are coming. If we see a particular trend coming in the briefs that we're getting, we know that that's what's going to dominate, the work that we're doing over the next 18 months. And that allows us to make sure that we are putting our resource in the right place. But also it's about making sure that we've got the right resource that can be flexible and can pivot based on the kind of work we're getting in. We like generalists, and we like people that are passionate and people that will quite happily, go in over their heads on certain projects and make sure they know the right people to call to help us, upskill in the certain specialist areas. We don't manufacture hardware. That's not something we do. We partner up with the people that do it best, but we try and keep as many of those skills on the roof as possible.
In each country, do you see certain strengths and weaknesses with regards to the skills that people might have? So there might be really good animators in certain countries versus in, for example, London.
I mean, I don't think I could say that. I mean, we have good people dotted across the world. I don't know if I've got that good a sense of where the skill sets are best. I know where our best people are. I'm not going to say that in public, but rather than I can't make. I don't think I can comment on exactly where the talent base lies. I mean, the brilliant thing about the way we work is that we can source people from everywhere. We can have someone in Taiwan doing product design for a project that's being managed out of LA that will go live in Dubai. And that is a common occurrence, and that is the way that we work. And having access to a global kind of talent pool is, again, I think, vital to succeeding, making sure that you can upskill with the right people and at the right time.
Oh, you're jumping ahead to the next question.
Sorry.
Let's head to...
Yeah, so, well, what makes us still be there is two things. One thing is that we are really bringing values to the corporate where we sell our software. Our value is that without our software, they would make a lot of mistakes. Without XR, they would typically, a shipbuilding manufacturer would start to manufacture the ship and discover, this door doesn't open because there is a pipe at the same place because the guy who worked on the piping didn't talk to the guy who worked on other parts. So these mistakes happen all the time on big projects because companies are big, people are making decisions without checking everything, and they don't have time, they are under pressure. And with a tool using XR, putting XR into their design process, doing project review, they could easily meet together and see, okay, on the CAD it doesn't work.
So I guess the more general question is, compared to other companies that exist in XR, how come you think you're still?
That's the second thing. First thing is that, okay, what's the value we can bring? And the second thing is that we actually bring this value, and people who are buying our software are buying more and more licenses because they can really put it in production. And the key for us is that we have developed a software that works with their existing tools without any import, without any conversion. So there is no friction to put XR into their production process. And that's key. If a tool is too complicated, they won't be able to integrate into their process, and they will just buy it, and then it will get in a room where nobody goes, and after some years they just cut it, and it happens all the time with our competitor. So actually, it's interesting to talk about VR, but it's really important to put it into production, into the real world, and then people use it and more and find value on it.
So how big is your company as a whole?
So the company is 50 people. It's a medium-sized company. So in this VR markets are a lot of startups. We are 15 years old, so we are beyond this, but still a lot of people think we are a startup, and we don't.
This is for a long time. I think France is a very interesting country because the government is really investing a lot in the creative sector of virtual reality. When it comes to the content that you create, corporate versus creative content, what do you decide to do and why? Yeah,
so our company we just make software, so we are just programmers. So we don't make content, but the 3D and VR and gaming ecosystem in France is really strong. Actually, a lot of market leaders in XR are based out of France, which in France it's a country which doesn't have a lot of big software editors. There are a lot of service companies, but very few software editors, or at least XR is a market where they are very present. There are even HMD manufacturers that comes out of France. So there used to be Star VR, which was based out of France. Now there is Lensar, which is a new HMD. So it's a very strong and a strong market. And there are many reasons for that. I think one of the things that math is very important in teaching, and that's something that helps to have the engineers interested into 3D. I mean, the artistic market, the film industry in France is also strong. The gaming industry, so that creates a lot of ecosystems that's good for XR.
Compared to all of the other companies that you see existing, how would you compare yourself to other XR companies in other countries?
Well, actually, a lot of XR companies are providing solution, content, creation. Where we are on the side on software editors, which we are, I would say, a little bit in advance because of our experience in putting XR into the industry. So we see a lot of startups coming, but we say, okay, they are claiming things, but they haven't really seen how people are going to use their software. They don't know the market as good as we do. So that's an important thing.
So existing for a long time has enabled you to figure out what's wrong and what's right.
Yeah, so that's that background and that help us. And all this, hype has also helped us a lot because then people industries are more interested in this technology, say, okay, what can I do with that? And we say, well, we know what you can do with that, and we can provide the complete solution today. So that's something that put us in a very strong position. One
of the biggest things that I'm always wondering is is this company going to exist long enough? That's always what I'm thinking about. And what I've learned at Immerse UK is that there are a lot of companies that exist but don't know the other company exists, and they're actually competing for the same clients. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that the XR community faces. I think having a larger company being able to pivot allows you the freedom to take on more risk. I think that's helpful. But there's a huge sort of probability that if you're creating a specific custom VR or AR experience, that very soon, if you base your whole company on that, you're going to disappear if your clients don't think you're worthwhile, if you don't have the experience. So I guess my next question is going to be whether it's worthwhile investing in or creating a platform. Everyone's fighting to be the platform for gaming, the platform for social, the platform for e-commerce, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd like to have your personal opinion when it comes to building platform versus creating custom content.
Well, the thing is, as of today, I mean, a software platform has taken a big part of the market is Unity, and then Unreal has a smaller part, but actually the revenue is mostly Fortnite. Your Unreal is just a side dish. And so the thing is that if you want to create another platform, well, the problem is that if you want to start a big project, you will need to find people who are expert in this small market platform, whereas you can hire easily a Unity expert on the market. You can have 1,000 of experts in 5 minutes. So I think the market has really moved there, and it will be difficult for another platform to move this one because of the availability of talents who know the platform.
I mean, I think tailoring that, merging that with your previous question, I think a lot of the reason that a lot of the smaller kind of VR shops over the years have gone away is because they put too much energy into developing their own IP. You know, from our perspective, on the brand side, we're not interested in developing our own IP. We've done it a little bit with games, and it's been fine, but it's not something that we want to do. We're not a technology company. We create creative experiences using technology. It's a different thing. On the enterprise side, obviously, we've got the Hyper CRC product that we've been developing. You know, in that case, yeah, absolutely, it is worth developing platforms if there is a clear use case and a clear business model behind it. I don't think developing technology for technology's sake is worthwhile, especially not when you're dealing with brands, because you know, if you can predict what a brand is going to do in 9 months, you know, you will be a much richer man than me, because it's almost impossible. If you put investment in now, trying to predict what they're going to do, the market's going to do in 9 months' time, it feels like you're destined for failure, is my personal thought.
I think you forgot a learning platform in your list. Yeah, so we. What was the question? That you have to invest in your own platform these days?
Well, I mean, the idea of creating your own platform versus creating custom content for different clients.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. We do both actually, and there are two separate companies. These days or the last 6 months, I'm focusing more on the platform because it's launching now, and thank you. And my two business partners are still focusing on the studio or on the agency. And the reason why we did this is not because we want to have a platform. It's just because it grew organically. We first had that platform for internal purposes because we saw we were start mapping out our methodologies and document them since the day we started, because we saw or we predicted that, and we are still waiting, but the moment the market explodes, as an agency, you have to scale on human resources. So because that's your capital, your human capital. And there, back then, 2015, 16, there was no proper education for XR. Now it's starting to evolve. But that's why we built that internal academy to onboard people who were coming, for example, for 360 video, who had a video background, to onboard them much quicker. So they could, people who had video experience could onboard much quicker doing our courses or our onboarding methodology. So they were billable on projects much faster than. But then we were talking about this. We do a lot, or we did, or we're still doing a lot of international conferences or things like this. You meet people, you talk about your business, and some people start asking us like, "Hey, can we sign up for that academy as well? Because it sounds interesting for our new staff to onboard them." And then we met with. I give some guest lectures sometimes at universities in Belgium, and then they asked us, "Can we have?" Access to that platform as well. So and that's what made us thinking like, hey, why not? Let's try to launch that new venture. And some of the money we raised, we invested in that platform just for experimentation. So we did a 9-month validation exercise. Are people willing to learn online? Are they willing to pay for it? How much are they willing to pay for it? Do we package the content in the right way? Do they need video tutorials? Do they need audiobooks? Do they need text with visuals? Is the engagement high enough to reach the completion rates of the course? Can we sign external instructors to grow the course library, because we can't make all the courses ourselves, because we don't have all the expertise ourselves? And we validate. We checked all those boxes over the past 9 months, and that's why we now think like, hey, there is traction on the platform. It works. People are interested in it. So let's give it a shot and put some more money in it. And that's the reason why we did it. But it's not because we wanted to have like a product company.
Well, yours grew organically rather than going, we're going to create the platform for this. It seemed like people wanted to have what you wanted.
We didn't invest a lot of marketing in it, only content marketing with the podcast channel we have. That's the only thing we actually did. And then it grew organically. It's not that it's a huge amount of users on it, but it's impossible because not everybody knows about it. But we were able to validate our assumptions, which was interesting to build our new business case.
Just out of curiosity, when is it launching? Is it?
It's already live.
So
we only have 2 courses online.
Only 2 courses.
Yeah.
So if anybody here is interested in your platform, where do they go? What do they do?
VRTL.academy, and then sign up.
Look it up,
and
guys.
We have free courses as well, free downloads. So yeah, this is not a promotion talk. So thank you.
Okay, I actually now forgot the initial question, what I was asking. Platform, yes.
Yeah, platform. I'm kind of going to answer that from 2 perspectives. From my perspective and my team's perspective, it's not worth us pursuing that avenue. But for any other individual that's looking to create a platform, I truly believe that gaming engines will be the operating systems of the future. So to invest in a gaming engine that will ultimately become a leading platform, be it on a home PC, be it on your mobile phone, that architecture and the way that the engine is structured can deliver everything much better than our current operating systems. And the reason that we'll be able to run those on the devices that we have is because technology is getting smaller and more powerful. So you try running a gaming engine at the moment and run other apps alongside it, it just kills the machine because of the performance of the system. So yes, it's very much worth investing, and you're probably not going to see a new operating system. It'll be like we've seen earlier, Facebook just paid 40 million for a platform there. You're probably going to see a platform such as Unity, Unreal, be invested in by an operating system such as Microsoft or Apple, in my opinion. Or it may be somebody completely new that comes through, and that architecture is then put into the operating systems that we use today.
On Facebook trying to buy Unity, haven't they been trying for a while?
Okay. Yeah. Get investing now then.
Okay, I guess my final question that I can think of is, with your clients, with the talk that Emilia just did and all of the really cool technologies that's coming out, is there something specific that you feel the clients have been asking more of recently? Are they asking for more AR? Are they asking for more Magic Leap? Are they asking for 5G use cases? Can you just walk us through what maybe your clients have been asking for the past year and what you think they might be asking for in the next 5 to 10 years?
The standout one for me is collaboration. So my clients want collaboration. They move away from XR projects, I would say 90% of the time, because they feel like it's an enclosed space for somebody to work in. It's a single person experience. So the more that we can collaborate and have collaborative experiences the more people they can get involved. So an example of that is we created a virtual reality theatre for the Ideal Home show, and this was a 3D tour of a home that was physically there actually, but you had to queue for an hour to get through it. But we had 60 people sat in the audience with virtual reality headsets on, and we had a guy on stage presenting, and they could interact with the presenter and they could physically see what he was doing. And that, for me, was probably the most uptake I've ever seen in an XR that we've put forward before. And the reason for that was they were able to collaborate, and they were able to enjoy it, and they were able to experience it together. And when they took the headsets off, they could talk about it. Did you like that bit where? And they're kind of tweeting about it collectively, and it built up a bit of a buzz. And then the next session just got bigger and bigger, and we ultimately had 80-plus-year-olds wearing VR headsets and the holding hands because they've never experienced this before. And it's a really cool thing to see that if it was just that lady on her own, she probably wouldn't have done it. But because it's a collective experience, and we do all have, I suppose we don't want to put this headset on, and we don't want to close our eyes to the world when they can still see us. That's a big part of what we need to do to move forwards. But if we can get collaboratively and collectively people doing that experience together, the uptake on it is massive in comparison.
So compared to the past few years, and it's what were they asking for the past 5 years?
For the last 5 years, I wanted more realism. It always felt fake. It always had too much lag. It always made people feel too nauseous. So we really needed to move away from that, and we've definitely done that now. The technology's achieved a certain point where you can pass it and say, okay, I can now represent your brand to the quality that you need it representing in VR or in AR. What we need to now do is, we've achieved that, we need to give more innovative experiences where that people can experience these things together and learn together. So previously, it's mainly been about graphics and latency.
So do they ask the same questions for graphics and latency in the collaborative experiences?
Yes, but now the barrier's budget. So I can make it look as awesome as you're asking me to, but it's going to take my guys 8 months to build that, and that's the cost for this. Or we can do it this way, and that's the cost for that. So it's the budget's now the barrier, and some clients are fortunate enough to have the budget to be able to allow us that amount of time to make something as good as that. And then other times we do need to scale it back to a point where that's not achievable, but then we overcome that because the experience is right, and there's a fine balance between getting that right and the experience right, because they both take time to achieve those.
And just out of curiosity, do you build for Unreal or Unity?
Both, but we generally use Unity. It's a quicker process for us. We find that the skill set is more readily available. We work very closely with Worcester University, and we get a lot of their kind of top students coming out, and we invite them down to spend a bit of time with us and get them to the point where they want to come and work for us, and we can almost tailor them in their final year to say, look, if you can learn this skill set, then the likelihood is we'll take you on based on what we understand about you now. And Unity is a big focus at Worcester University, and that's kind of relayed in the skill sets that we've got at DB as well.
Okay, Pieter?
Sorry for repeating myself again, but for VR and AR, we see the most traction now in safety and education with the big corporates. For example, we're now doing that for the Belgian railway company, for the oil and gas distributor of Belgium. So all in onboarding and safety trainings. And also we see a huge opportunity for ourselves, because Antwerp is the third biggest port in Europe and the second biggest chemical hub in the world, after next to Houston. So there is a huge presence of those petrochemical companies. So they all see a lot of opportunity in VR and AR for enterprise solutions, in terms of and also for digital twins. That's also something that we are asked for more and more lately. And then for consumer brands, we see a lot of demand for holographic experiences, interactive holograms, holofans, things like that. Because that's for some people who have seen that maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but for a lot of consumers, that's still something that they haven't seen before. And it's in terms of awareness generation for events, etc., but also for in-store experiences, for retail experiences. That's very interesting. Yeah. So that's what we do a lot lately.
So for the enterprise, the digital twinning, do you feel like a lot of your clients are asking for real-time data, visualizing data in many different ways and forms?
Yeah, but if it goes too technical, we pass. because we are not a technical company, but more starting from a creative and storytelling background. So if it goes too technical, one time we had Demi, which is world leading in how does it called in English? they get sand from the sea bottom, and then like for example in Dubai, the Palm Islands, I don't know how. Yeah, I don't know how you call it in English. They stealing. Stealing. They asked us one time to create like a real-time simulator with real-time data in the field. That's too technical for us. We pass on those projects.
So what Adam said about collaboration, is that something that they're also asking more of as well?
To collaborate with different companies, or
Collaboration in the experiences.
that's not, no, that's some. Yeah, I see that happening, but that's not something that they ask us yet. No.
Yet.
No, not yet. No.
And then, yeah, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been a huge driver for us, especially around AR and VR from, the imminent launch of 5G. I mean, if I had to take a rolling 12-month average of the thing that comes up the most in briefs, it's 5G and it's AR, and no one's really asking for that much VR, although over the last 6 months we've seen a big spike in the number of VR briefs we get. No one's asking for Magic Leap. I mean, we don't get any incoming briefs coming to us with anyone wanting to use Magic Leap. You even mention it to a client and they turn off. I think I can talk for hours about why I think that is. I don't think it's captured the minds of clients, and I don't think it's captured the minds of consumers yet. Probably a good thing they're pivoting to enterprise. One thing that I found really interesting is the use of audio, so kind of binaural and kind of 3D sound. A lot more brands have got hold of this. I think we're in like the kind of podcast revolution, or whatever we want to call it, the renaissance. Everyone's obsessed with audio, and we're seeing a lot more kind of audio captured and audio centric experiences land on our desk. I think outside that, I think it's very different. We don't see that many collaborative experiences being briefed to us. It's 100% something that we try and put in to briefs, but I think for what we do, it feels like there's an added layer of complication that scares people away. It scares clients away when you start thinking about what's the dynamic, not just between one person in a game engine environment, but actually two people, and how do you control that, and what are those dynamics? I think it starts to get slightly confusing. I mean, we'd absolutely love to do one, but it just doesn't feel that for us is coming from the brands just yet.
Totally forgot what I was going to ask. Okay, let's go to Alexis.
Yes, so collaboration, actually we have integrated collaboration into our software in 2011, so been doing that for a while. Yeah. And so in the last years, I mean, people were, especially newcomers, were asking, okay, can we do this in VR? Is it possible? Can we see our models and discuss together? Yes, I've proven it. And the next step is, okay, now, how can we put this in every desk, put it in thousands, tens of thousands inside the company? So the biggest question that comes first is cost of this solution, because today the solution is still expensive, especially you need high-performance GPUs. So, and second question is, okay, will everybody in the company accept this kind of tools? So the key things for acceptance is getting cheaper and lighter XR devices. So last year we got the Oculus Quest, which was a good steps in getting easier to use. I mean, head-mounted display you can turn off and it does AR immediately, VR immediately. AR and MR also devices, so HMD with camera, helps bring the real world, mix the real world and the virtual world, which helps people accept the technology because they feel better inside. When you are in VR, you are cut from the real world, and you cannot do that for a long time. So that prevents massive deployment of the technology. And a big thing that will reduce the cost is cloud rendering. So doing all the rendering on render farms on big companies already doing virtualization in-house or on Amazon and other companies, Microsoft. So that really helps get the cost down and up to a point that this can be massively deployed. So that's the next thing we are looking to do in the next 5 years. Our software is being adapted to support 5G and cloud rendering for that, and then we'll probably need to wait for lighter devices that will come later from a few companies. We need to wait for that part. So the software is a little bit in advance to the devices.
How are we doing on time? It's time. It's time. Do we have time for one question, or that's it?
Yeah, it's 6:30, but it's...
Does anybody have one single last question? Perfect. No one does. Oh, wait, no. There's one guy. He's willing.
I have to ask, I'm curious on, so I run a AV consultancy and we're using VR for helping clients understand architectural integration. We're currently running on Unreal Engine and I've got everybody on my team giving me a different story around Unity versus Unreal, and I'd love to hear some opinions. I don't know if it's too much of a technical question, but where you guys sit on the two platforms. In my case, it's architectural visualization, but if you just want to talk just generally how you feel about them and the differences.
Does anybody here do tech architecture? Do you do architecture?
Yeah. So, our software is one of the few in this market which doesn't use either Unreal or Unity. So, so you use our software, which actually, if you have a SolidWorks model or Creo models, you can display them directly in VR without any import-export with our software. So that's totally a different way that you have been thinking to do it.
Anybody else want to add here?
I mean, I'm not technical in any way, but we use Unity. I think you said this earlier. It's much quicker and more efficient to get to the level of quality that we need it to be. I think certain projects we should have used Unreal, and we are shifting. If you do need that fidelity at the end, there is a reason that a lot of the films companies and VFX companies use Unreal. I think you can reach that next level. You can put that extra 30% of sheen off with it. But if we've done a few AR kind of overlays of architectural models using Unity, no problem. It depends what you're trying to achieve. But I would say that Unreal probably does unlock that extra few percent at the end.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I think it depends on the diversity of the projects that you will be working on as well. My opinion is that Unity is much more diverse, whereas the Unreal Engine has, if you can own your skill on Unreal, you'll have a very specific route to doing a job and you'll become quicker on it, and it's a much more technical system in that respect, and the potential outcome of it is a much higher quality from what's been demonstrated. So if your projects are going to take a relatively narrow route, then it's a great way to go. Our projects are very wide route, so 1 minute we'll be doing something very basic, 1 minute we'll be doing something very technical, but we'd like to use the same platform, ideally. So yeah, I suppose it's the difference between an oil painting and a water painting. It just completely depends on what the final output is going to look like based on the team that you've got and what you're trying to achieve.
Just to add to that, I think there's a larger group of people who have been trained in Unity versus Unreal. The moment you're trained in Unreal, you're immediately hired within the gaming industry and you can't get them back. And also, they're very, very expensive. And
I've lost two developers to the gaming industry, so that's why I've got a lot of.
They're highly sought after people, Unreal, and Unreal also requires more coding. Unity is more flexible, however, it's continuously updating. And so if you have a project that you're working on and, I don't know, for a few months down the line, you want to release it, it might not work because of some updates. So those are pros and cons that you have to consider about. Anyways, I want you guys to give a great round of applause for all of our men here.
Thank you.
That's it.
That was great. Okay, guys. Well, that brings us to the end of our conference. I hope you guys enjoyed yourself. Real quick, let's give Bart a big round of applause because he's been the man behind the magic. Thank you. And I hope you guys will all join us for a drink now outside. Thank you.